Dr. Nick Delgado here. I'm with Tyler LeBaron, and we're going to talk about an amazing discovery that will help influence the quality of your life, your energy, and quite likely what we call oxidative stress, free radical damage, and even the source of energy, mitochondria, where the powerhouse of all of our body's energy is created. Tyler, you took on a sensei, a master from Japan, and tell me about that story and how did that bring you to this hydrogen story? I'm going to start with this little demonstration. We've got just pure water, and I'm dropping a tablet in the top, and as I drop the tablet in, we'll see what happens. It's starting to bubble, so I'm assuming this is some kind of a hydrogen gas that's being liberated. So tell me first about the sensei, the master. What's his name in the university? And tell me about this science that was intriguing. I guess you were an undergraduate and you were looking to do an internship, so tell me about that.
Correct, yeah. I came across hydrogen gas around in 2009, and I became very interested. I started reading all the articles. I did a couple undergraduate research projects just trying to understand this a bit more, and for my biochemistry degree I needed to fulfill an internship, and so I wanted to do that in hydrogen gas. So there's a couple of places doing hydrogen at the time, Loma Linda University, Pittsburgh University, a couple other ones, and then that are there in Japan. So what I did is I emailed who I felt were the top research groups, and I asked them if I could do my internship and do research in hydrogen gas, and a number of them responded back, said I could come. I narrowed it down. I chose Nagoya University because it's one of the most prestigious universities. I believe it's the 5th most prestigious there in Japan. A lot of Nobel Prize winners there. And so I had the opportunity to go to Nagoya Daigaku, is how they say it in Japanese, the university. And it was a great experience there. I was there for a couple months. We researched basically the effects of hydrogen gas on various signaling pathways, because that's really my main interest, my main focus. Coming from a biochemistry background, we see in cells and tissues and human studies and animal studies that hydrogen gas is having all of these effects. But the question of how is it really doing this? What are the primary targets, the actual underlying molecular mechanisms of how hydrogen gas is working still is elusive. And so I try to do some research to figure out how hydrogen gas is modulating or having involvement in some of these signal transduction pathways. And it was a great experience. I learned a lot. Dr. Ono, who is my mentor there, as I mentioned, he was very interested in his story of how he got into hydrogen gas and research. He's very well respected in academia. He did a number of things. Even worked at the Mayo Clinic here. He's a vice dean of Nagoya University and professor of neurogenetics. He heard about hydrogen gas, and people were saying all these things, and he was very skeptical at first, but he thought he would just do an in-house study. And so he actually took rats and injected them with a toxin to induce Parkinson's disease, and then did a randomized trial, and found that those drinking hydrogen-rich water, the drinking of hydrogen-rich water, totally prevented the development of Parkinson's disease.
Wow. Now, I know there's been nearly 600 studies. There's been an explosion in research once they found some of the early pilot studies. And that information is also now crossing over to ongoing clinical studies on humans. And you also are part of a nonprofit foundation. What is the name of that foundation, and what is the work that's come out on these human studies?
Yes, it's the Molecular Hydrogen Foundation. I started this because I believe that hydrogen gas has great therapeutic potential, very high safety profile, and I'd like to see more research being done, more education, more awareness, and so it's just a science-based nonprofit that's dedicated to the research and awareness of hydrogen gas. There are a few human studies, maybe 30, 40 that are completed, and probably another 30 or 40 that are already underway. It's taken enormous, like you said, the biomedical community has really taken great interest in the properties of hydrogen gas as a therapeutic molecule. Really started about the year 2007. Mm-hmm. Before 2007, there was maybe around 50 articles or so that suggested that hydrogen gas may play a biological important effect. It's an article done by Baylor University, and Texas A&M in 1975 and published in the prestigious Journal of Science. But then not a lot of research since then was done. But then in 2007, Dr. Shiego Ota from Nippon Medical School published a groundbreaking paper that showed hydrogen could act as a selective antioxidant and scavenge the toxic hydroxyl radicals. And because that journal has such a high reputation amongst academia, that really spawned a great hydrogen interest. And now, as you mentioned, there are now over 600 articles that talk about the benefits of hydrogen gas in over 150 different human and animal disease models.
On your website, does it have links to some of these research articles?
Correct. If you go to my website, you click on studies, and then it kind of has them categorized in different things. You can just click on the link. It takes you right to the PubMed article or the actual journal.
So because some people have heard that antioxidants play a role in preventing or reducing free radical damage, but to an extent, you eloquently explained in our coming podcast the idea that we need a little bit of oxidative stress. We need a little bit of inflammation for the body to sometimes respond. Because there's been some studies where they more or less suppressed all aspects of oxidative stress and free radical damage, and somehow, like in the case of athletes, they didn't seem to notice any improvement. But when they're under some demand and the body responds with the hydrogen molecule, their body has this molecule that comes in along with, potentially it may work synergistically with nitric oxide, which that's a tremendous possibility. Now we're talking, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So going back to what you're saying with the free radicals, absolutely, free radicals, as we know, is linked to the pathogenesis of virtually every disease.
Yes.
Because it can damage DNA, RNA, proteins, cell membranes. So we know that having too much free radicals is very damaging. However, as mentioned, there are small amounts that we need because life is balanced between this oxidation and reduction, right? And so we can have oxidative stress, we can also have reductive stress. In fact, a new article showed that one of the primary things of aging is actually too much, not enough oxidative stress in the endoplasmic reticulum, which is important for folding proteins. So you have misfolded proteins, so you don't have enough oxidation there, you can't get the right proteins. And then you have too much reductive stress or oxidative stress in the cytosol. So not enough reductive stress in same cell, right? Not enough reductive stress in one area and too much oxidative in another. And this is a very important balance that we have here. Life is balanced, like I said, between oxidation and reduction. And we look at free radicals like nitric oxide. Nitric oxide, a very, very important molecule. The whole thing with the inorganic nitrates is booming, beet juice.
Yeah, we use a product loaded with plant nitrates.
Oh, is that right?
Tremendous benefit to people.
Right. That's a whole new research that's been coming out in the last decade or so. The whole nitrate, nitrite, nitric oxide pathway is just a phenomenal area. The nitric oxide, it's interesting. It's a free radical, and so we don't want to neutralize that, right? And it's also interesting because it's also a gas. And when they first started doing research on this whole nitric oxide, or this endothelial vascular releasing factor, someone hypothesized it was a gas. It was kind of laughed at, like gases can't do that.
Right.
Well, then of course it won a Nobel Prize.
Right, 1998. Lou Ignario and his team.
Well, so consider that hydrogen gas may be following, in some extent, the same lines, because we have other gas-assimilating molecules like carbon monoxide, hydrogen sulfide, nitric oxide, and now hydrogen gas, maybe it's considered, in some extent, a fourth gas-assimilating molecule.
So I'm noticing that the bottle's getting firmer, so there's this gas building up. Instead of just dropping the tablet into a glass of water, it would fizz away and you'd lose a lot of the benefit. I'm intrigued because I started this product yesterday, and I'm en route to, in time for the Arnold Classic in March, which is about 5 months away, to have totally ripped abs like I did at my last world record appearance more than a year ago. And, there's some fascination with athletes that, look, be at your top performance, overcome lactic acid, recover from intense workouts. Then you can put in more intensity, and the more the intensity, the better the muscle, the strength, the power. So if I use this product, you and I talked about a dose relationship. It's possible that 2 or 3 tablets a day is enough, but some athletes might find that they use it in intervals if they come back for a later training and use it 2 or 3 hours apart. Just drop in a tablet, mix it with the whole thing of water, and drink the whole thing down. Yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everyone's going to respond a little bit differently. When you look at studies from a cell culture, we see that a higher concentrations in the millimolar range or a ppm range in the cell is very therapeutic, and even more therapeutic than a lower concentration. So when you consider you're drinking this and you're diluting it down by all the body water, then you're very low concentration. So there does appear to be a dose-dependent effect. In some cases, not all. So many people have experienced a greater benefit by taking more hydrogen.
So elite athletes could take this legally because it's a hydrogen molecule, and the byproduct is just H2O. It excretes out as water. So it's the most non-toxic sports performance potential of anything I've ever come across. Is that what I'm reading into this?
Yeah, pretty much. I would say it's probably the most natural supplement there is, because every single time that we eat fibers, fruits and vegetables, the bacteria in our intestines, our microflora, which has been talked about for a long time, the benefits of that, can actually metabolize that fiber to produce hydrogen gas. So we actually have a continuous...
It's starting to squirt out, the hydrogen gas.
Yeah,
so that fiber in the gut helps to build up some or release some hydrogen gases. This is part of the process since the beginning of man.
Exactly. So we've always been exposed to hydrogen gas. So this is something, it's very...
What's it doing? It's changing. So should I drink it?
Sure.
Oh, it's going all over the place. What's happening?
Yeah, you can see all the gas trying to come out. Coming out of solution.
So I want to seal it in between swigs, right?
Yeah, to help minimize some of the gas dissipation out.
Well, there's virtually no taste. It's got a little something I detect, but it's important that it's clean water, because you don't want it mixing, becoming hydrogen sulfate or something like that, or these drop out of solution, in other words.
Yeah, because there's two things. Because hydrogen gas itself is odorless, tasteless. It's just a gas.
Right.
But the way that you're using hydrogen-producing tablets, right, that use a specific formula that reacts with the water to produce hydrogen gas. And so that's what gives a slight taste and different things that I guess some people like.
So a number of athletes are using this now and noticing tremendous enhancement in their performance.
Yeah, specifically I would say recovery.
Okay.
When you consider the fact that, we talked about ATP yesterday. So when you consider that your body needs, and for a normal person, about the same weight in ATP that you weigh. So if you weigh 150 pounds, you need about 150 pounds of ATP that your body resynthesizes. If you're an elite athlete and you're going out really training, you may need twice your weight. So that's 300 pounds if you're a 150-pound person. So that's a lot of ATP. Well, the primary guy that makes the ATP in our cells is the mitochondria, and that makes most of the ATP. Well, as you're exercising really hard and you maybe get too much free radicals or this oxidative stress, you can start to compromise or damage the free radicals, and now you're not making as much ATP. Now you're going to start having to rely on glycolysis, which you start producing more lactate, or people call lactic acid, and all these other things start happening. Well, with the hydrogen gas, as a lot of the research is showing that it has one of the targets may be there with the mitochondria. It actually is very interesting to look back from evolutionary with hydrogenases and different things we don't want to get into, but its similarities to the mitochondria. It makes a lot of sense. Hydrogen gas may be stimulating the mitochondria to produce more ATP, maintain mitochondrial membrane potential, activating the different complexes of the mitochondria, allowing you to make that ATP so you stay and have the energy that you need.
So an average Joe weekend athlete may not push themselves hard enough to notice the real benefit. It's when you're really doing intense exercise, really putting it out there. I lift nonstop for an hour. I go through really intense workouts. I love it. And the recovery is everything, and the sustainability of that energy throughout the routine is critical. So coming back strong and being able to perform, this really could give me an edge in my performance, probably one that I would look forward to.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, everyone's going to be differently, of course, and the weekend warrior, it may, in some extent, it may actually be better for them to take that product, because the elite athlete, they're continuously making free radicals all the time. When you make free radicals, you activate various pathways in the body, and you're able to handle free radicals better.
Right. Okay. Initially, the more you exercise, the more free radical damage you produce.
So
then the body clears it better.
The weekend warriors haven't adapted to that, so they're making tons of oxidative damage. So it could, in some extent, be even more important for them to take the hydrogen to prevent an excessive amount of oxidative damage.
And it's okay if I stack it with another tablet in there, right?
Oh, sure.
Okay, good. So dose related, there's been times where people have used multiple tablets and no toxic effect because the only byproduct is H2O, water, excreted out of the system.
Yeah, and the byproduct comes when hydrogen gas reacts selectively with the hydroxyl radical. So one hydrogen molecule, H2, reacts with two hydroxyl radicals, which is OH neutral, to form two molecules of water. That's a very big thing, because when you consider something like vitamin C or other antioxidants, when that acts as an antioxidant, vitamin C gives away its electrons. Now vitamin C is now oxidized.
Oh.
So the body has to rejuvenate that or eliminate it.
Or clear it, because it becomes toxic too,
it
potentially.
It could be a pro-oxidant, right?
Yes.
In this case, hydrogen, there's no byproduct. It just forms water. So if you consider there's I would say 5 reasons why hydrogen gas is a superior antioxidant. And one of them, as we mentioned, there's no byproduct. The other is it's selective, right? It's only going to scavenge the most toxic radicals, like the hydroxyl radical, leaving the beneficial signaling molecules alone, like nitric oxide, superoxide N radical, hydrogen peroxide, and a number of other ones. So it's going to go after just the toxic ones. So we have no byproduct, we have its selectivity, and we have bioavailability. Bioavailability is the fact that hydrogen gas is the smallest molecule in the universe. Okay, it's half the size of oxygen. It's going to be able to permeate and penetrate your cells and subcellular compartments of mitochondria, nucleus, blood-brain barrier easier and faster than anything. Hydrogen gas is the highest rate of diffusivity, so it can get through there very, very easily. That's why you can put the hydrogen here, but if you leave that for a week or so, all the hydrogen gas will be gone because it'll go right out the container, right through the pores.
Oh, wow.
Of the plastic bottle.
Interesting. So as I use this product, I'm thinking back to over 38 years at looking under microscopy, people's free radical damage exhibited by polymerized protein puddles. And I would send that off for lipid peroxidase studies from Genova Lab. We would do breath analysis, measure massive amounts of free radical damage in most people who have clinical health problems, arthritis, Parkinson's, neurological disorders, possibly even cancer. And so what we're saying here is by getting that extra electron to go to the unpaired electron, you stop this chain reaction of damage in the tissues itself.
Yeah, it's a termination step instead of a propagation step.
Yeah, I used to, and I still do, I use high altitude conditioning where it cycles high and low, 20,000 feet, dropping to 1,000 feet per second, which is the only thing I've found that effectively, besides running stadium stairs and doing intense exercise in addition, but those things seem to clear up a lot of the free radical damage. But you have here a novel way, and you told me about an arthritic who experienced this. Did they respond favorably with this product, hydrogen? How did they respond?
Yeah, there's been a number of people that I know, and again, these are just anecdotal testimonials, and so
sure.
I mean, you could say placebo and whatnot.
Right.
But there becomes at a point where there's so many people that experience benefits, it almost is more of an empirical evidence, if you will.
Sure.
That people would take this and maybe they haven't been able to walk very good. Or this one lady, she could not walk upstairs without pain. After the first day she took it, she was able to get up in the morning. She walked all the stairs, no problem whatsoever. So it's very powerful. And there is a human study, a fairly well controlled human study on rheumatoid arthritis, and it showed a number of the patients actually had a complete reversal of the symptoms. They wouldn't even be diagnosed as having the issue anymore. Wow.
So the arthritic pain completely gone. Very good. So if, back to my original goal, I'm headed to the Arnold Classic in 5 months. I'm training all out, more than I've ever trained, effectively, concentrated, eating whole plant foods, doing the right things, balancing my hormones, positive mindset. And when I add this hydrogen gas therapy, is it likely that I'll achieve my ripped abs sooner en route to my world record pace where I'm lifting as well? Will I notice potentially reduction in body fat? Is this an agent that might help people reduce body fat?
Well, it's possible. There's a study by a Nature Publishing Group in the Journal of Obesity that actually found that drinking hydrogen-rich water, and this is an animal model, drinking hydrogen-rich water had the same effect as about I think it was a 15% calorie restriction diet.
Nice.
And then there was actually a synergistic effect when there was a calorie restriction as well as the administration of hydrogen gas. Hydrogen gas could activate the fibroblast growth hormone 21, which stimulates energy metabolism, and so you end up just burning more energy and whatnot. So it's possible. I would say it's more possible than not, I guess.
So practitioners are now obtaining this product, since I plan to make it available to practitioners, they have an opportunity to really report back the data and the findings, because we're all in this at a very challenging time in medical history where the system is just overtaxed. It just can't possibly keep up at the rate it's going. So if we use novel, safe treatments that can go synergistically with the practitioners around the world that I work with and motivate, I think that we really have something here that's worth looking into. I'm totally going to report back here in several weeks as soon as I notice differences and changes. How soon might I notice a difference? What's the earliest and maybe the latest that people notice a difference in their body physiology and improvement with hydrogen therapy?
Well, that's a great question. Everyone's different. Kind of just what I've heard from the field, if you will. Some people notice it literally within hours. Maybe they'll have a reduction in pain, or they'll take a pre-full workout. They'll have very quick recovery. They can just go set after set after set and just keep going, just not feel fatigued. They get more alert, more energy.
I so love it. That's how I train. I want to keep, I got to sustain. That's how I break records, because I go set after set with no pause.
Right. Well, and because of some of the studies that show a reduction in lactic acid, because you're likely improving the function of the mitochondria.
Well, there is some lactic acid needed in pyruvic acid that stimulates muscular growth, but like you said, it's a balance. There's only a little bit needed, but the rest is excess and going to shut you down.
Right, exactly. Yeah, so it's not that it's preventing it and that it's a negative thing. It's just that the reason it's not being produced is because you're getting your ATP from the mitochondria, so you're functioning more optimally. And it's not that, lactic acid is totally bad. It's just it's using a different pathway through the Krebs cycle.
So Tyler, are you telling me there's some studies that show an increased production of ATP, and sometimes it's even outside of the mitochondria?
Yeah. Well, there's different pathways that make ATP. One's the glycolysis, right, and that's make a little bit of ATP. Then there's the mitochondria, make most of ATP. Hydrogen gas likely stimulates the mitochondria to produce more ATP, especially when it gets compromised, helps protect the mitochondria from damage. Then there's another article published from Washington State University that actually suggests that hydrogen can increase ATP production via the Jagendorf reaction, which is in the mitochondria, but not necessarily with the electron transport chain. So it's very interesting.
I love it. I love your scientific intensity about the subject, because biochemistry has always fascinated me, and I think it's kind of that frontier that sometimes is so intimidating and complex that the lay public doesn't appreciate some of the things you're explaining here. But bottom line is, you're looking at better, for my extreme performers, better performance, better quality sleep, better energy, possibly even longevity as we understand it, because all of aging relates to tissue degeneration, inflammation, and oxidative stress.
Yeah, I mean it seems to be a medical dream gas, if you will. I mean, it's interesting. I was actually on the phone with my mentor. We're writing a very comprehensive review article on hydrogen. I mean, I've gone through every article. I found a hydrogen so far can alter over 200 different biomolecules, whether it be transcription factors, gene regulation. I mean, it's just amazing. But they're doing some studies right now, and we can't disclose all the details, but it appears in some extent that hydrogen basically can act as an exercise mimetic. So, the whole exercise in a pill type thing. Hydrogen, because it's stimulating some of the same pathways that exercise does.
Whoa.
So, because we're interested in the primary target. How is hydrogen gas doing this? It's very phenomenal what we're finding.
So the couch potato might sit on the couch and actually get the benefits of some indirect.
Benefits, yeah.
Right. So it reminds me, I mean, there was the A bomb, then the H bomb, which is far more powerful, and of course it's a different mechanism completely. However, I think of this as my H bomb going into battle to exercise and to get it in top shape. Thank you very much, Tyler. Dr. Nick Delgado of Simply Healthy TV. Subscribe to our channel. Follow the segments. You're going to be impressed what we're about to reveal as I follow this story with Tyler LeBaron and his nonprofit organization, which is
Molecular Hydrogen Foundation.
Very good. We're going to bust all the records. You watch. Talk to you soon.